everybody. Welcome to episode 263 of a Wrestling Gal podcast, providing you with the female perspective on all things wrestling. Join me, your host and wrestling enthusiast, Ella J. As today, I am joined by the Scream Queen, Ella. Now let's chat. Hello, everybody. Today I am joined by the Scream Queen, Ella. It's so weird to say that. This is my first time chatting with another Ella. So how are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic to be speaking with you because honestly, I had a lot of fun researching this once I discovered that you have a whole book written about you. So I really wanted to get into that before we talk everything wrestling. So can you please tell me more about Ella, Wrestling with Madness, written by John Cosper? I am so intrigued by this.
Yeah. So John Cosper, he's written a lot of books. He's very nice. So I was actually at a girl fight show and he came up to me and he was like, "Hey, I really like your character. Like, I'm an author. Can I write a book about you?" And I was like, "Heck yeah, like that sounds awesome." And so he sent me the story, like the idea for the story and everything, and just kind of he sent me rough drafts and everything. I got to kind of like see it as it came to life, and then he just sent me the books and I got to read it. I have read all the way through it. It's really interesting, and it was really neat to see, my face on a book and like have this whole story about me.
Yeah, I purchased that on Amazon today. I needed to get here. Like, now when I tell you I popped for that, I thought it was the coolest thing ever, honestly.
Thank you.
And I mean, on the cover too, there's like these many different faces of you with the doll, with your makeup, with the straight jacket. So did you have to have like separate photo shoots for that? Or tell me more about the cover art going into that.
Yeah, so those are actually just some of my promo photos
Oh.
and some of like action shots from shows that I was on. And so he was looking for photos for the cover and I just kind of sent him a few, and he had someone do the illustration for it. I can't remember his name. But yeah, he made the covers for it and everything. So that was really neat. And so when I first started at the school I train at, we do like future star shows or student shows. And so my character kind of started out as like a split personality. Yeah. So I had Elizabeth, which was like, I started out as a referee, and then Ella was like my alter ego. And so that's kind of how I think it mentions like both Elizabeth and Ella. Yeah.
So tell me, am I talking to Ella or Elizabeth today?
Whichever one you want. I think this is more Elizabeth right now.
Yeah, I think it's a mix of both, though. I just find that so extremely fascinating. I mean, even reading the plot line, I mean, in the story, you start off as a hitchhiker. So have you actually ever hitchhiked in real life? I feel like that'd be really scary. I hope not.
No.
Okay.
No.
I would hope not, because that's extremely scary too. But I mean, I feel like it intertwines really well, especially with your whole character. I mean, I would classify this book, even not reading it yet, was as like horror / mystery / thriller. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. So I feel like the Scream Queen essence of Ella definitely ties in with this very well. So would you say you yourself are very horror, like into horror, and that genre is something that you've been drawn to?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I've like growing up, I've always loved Halloween time, and like going to haunted houses was always so cool. And yeah, like scary movies, and like I've always thought ghosts were so interesting. Like all of my houses I've ever lived in have been haunted. So like I definitely believe in all that stuff. It freaks me out. Like I don't want to mess with it, but I definitely believe there's ghosts and everything. And then yeah, just going to haunted houses when I was a kid, and like all the characters there, like that's what I want Ella to be like when I wrestle. Like I want to learn, when you're going through those houses and they'll make those little like snarling noises, like I want to learn how to do like just weird stuff like that to freak people out.
Well, you've definitely gotten the scream down. I feel like now the next step is to like, whether, I don't know, you could be like a ghoul, a goblin. I don't know. There's like many different sounds in haunted houses.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you bring this up, because I was going to ask it later, but since you opened the door to it, I mean, you said you've lived in like haunted houses before or stuff with ghosts. Do you have any personal like ghost encounters or like strange things happening to you in real life?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I have like a whole notebook that like I'll write down my stuff that happens. It, like I don't know, I've the one house I lived in, we had like these local ghost hunters, not the show, but like people who do it locally, and they came over and they were doing all these investigations. They had all their equipment, and we got to talk to them and everything. And actually kind of ties into that story. They told me that like I'm susceptible to hitchhiker spirits. And so I'm like, what does that mean? So they said basically like whenever I go somewhere, if I go somewhere haunted, like spirits can like latch themselves onto me and follow me home, which is really freaky. Like like I probably look crazy, but sometimes when I'm in the car driving home from places, if I have a weird feeling, I'll like be saying prayers and everything, like don't follow me home. You're not welcome here, you know? Um, but yeah, I've had some pretty weird things happen. One time I woke up to like a scream in my ear.
Huh.
Every time I woke up, there was like a man standing by my bed. And like sometimes it's weird too, because sometimes it'll freak you out, but sometimes it's just like, oh, that's just there.
Yeah, it's just like I feel like you've gotten many experiences, it sounds like, where it's like low key, it's not as frightening as maybe the
Yeah.
first couple, as weird as that sounds.
Right, right. And like, I don't know, I'd always think about, you know, dogs, they can't see all the colors that we can. So
Yeah.
what else is going on all around us that we as humans just can't see or pick up on? You know, there's got to be so much that we just can't comprehend that's going on all around us.
In any of the houses that you've been in, have you done like research to maybe like learn the ghosts that it could like possibly be of like previous owners or anything? Because I feel like that would be something I would do.
Yeah. So my parents' house, which I lived in like all when I was a teenager and everything, their house, we actually, so when I was in school, sorry to go off topic, but
No, I'm open to it. Go on, please.
so I took a speech class. It was like speech and debate. So like I got to just do this. So one of the speeches we had to do was it was like an informative speech. You just had to pick a topic and educate the class on it. And so I chose the school that I went to it was called Lakota East High School in Cincinnati. And so I chose the history of Lakota, just that area around there. Like what, you know, I figured that's something like everybody I was in school that it was interested. So there was this really old, like one room schoolhouse that I went to. I like contacted the president of the Butler County Historical Society, and he met me there, and I was asking him about like just the history of that area, and I asked him about my parents' neighborhood, and he told me like, yes, that neighborhood is built on an Indian burial ground, which they're not supposed to do. If they find out it's built on an Indian burial ground, they're supposed to stop like construction, but they just kept going, I guess. So there's definitely like creepy stuff going on in that neighborhood.
I mean, especially too with all the spirits probably, I mean, roaming around too. I believe in ghosts too as well. I haven't had as many. I feel like I've had very minor ones where I think I saw something like outside, but never like to the intensity of you. It sounds like where you're like driving and feel like that's interesting that you like a hitchhiker spirit. I've never heard of that. That's extremely fascinating though.
There was this one too. My mom actually took a picture of my room when I lived with them still. And you can see this like shape on it. And it's really weird. And so we asked the people who came over who did the ghost hunting, and they're like, oh, that's a horse. I was like, what? And so we're like, where would a horse come from? They're like, well, it could be from the land, or it could be like you have an attachment to it. But they're like, we get this feeling that this horse wants you to seek some sort of counseling. I was like, what? I was like, okay, well, that's really weird, because I do like, I see a therapist. Yeah. And so when I first started seeing her, she lived on a farm, and she like took care of all these like rescue horses and dogs and everything. And there was this one horse that was kind of older, named Beauty. And they were like, oh my gosh, like, that's it. That must be that horse. And it's like telling you like, keep going to this, like to therapy, you know? It's like, it's really weird things like that. Like, I don't believe in coincidences, but like, I don't know, just weird things like, how would they know that? And
yeah, I've had a couple instances like that where it's like it can't be a coincidence because it's like so on point, or like so like I don't know how to explain it, but I understand that feeling too. That's extremely fascinating too. Like I'm into all of that. I feel like I haven't had many like ghost encounters, but I definitely believe in all of that too. And I feel like it definitely ties in with Ella too. I mean, during your days, especially with the straight jacket and the doll and the whole terrifying look, where do you even like find the inspiration or creative ideas when crafting Ella/Elizabeth?
So I can't take all the credit on my own. So it is partly where I train at. I train at, it's called Bone Crushers, but it's Northern Wrestling Federation in Cincinnati. And so we do the Future Star shows. So when I was first starting out, our trainers just helped me create a gimmick, you know? And so they said, hey, like, you're going to be a heel. We want you to be kind of crazy, whatever. One of them had an idea like, oh, maybe you could carry a doll. So it was like kind of like they would like pitch out ideas, but then it was up to me to like actually bring those to life and
execute it. Yeah.
But yeah.
And that makes sense. I mean, you have the essence going on, the whole scream and all of that too. If you could, like, maybe you would be like one of the dolls, but if you could have like any fictional or mythological creature be your tag team partner for an evening, what would you choose and why? I'm very fascinated because you're very into Halloween. And so there's many routes that you could go with this. I feel like that would fit.
I don't know. Maybe I could do like some sort of banshee because then we could just both scream and like
I mean, that would be your secret weapon.
Yeah.
Now, I was listening to another thing that you did. I think you eliminated someone from like a rumble or something with a scream or something like that. Have you had any other like spots like that where you're using like your scream as like a move in a match?
All the time. Like yeah, like I'll do it in matches, sometimes in promos and just like little like in between segments. I most recently, so I just became a babyface at my home promotion. And so I used it in my comeback one time as like I screamed and she bumped off of my screen.
I find that so exciting to coordinate too. Like it's literally like your own weapon, like your secret weapon in these matches too, and just makes it more entertaining too, which I love. I mean, especially too, I feel like another essential element too of your look is your ring gear too, which I love, by the way. So do you have any like stories or inspiration behind your most recent ring gear?
So not really. So the one I started with like kind of like an all black. It was like fishnet at the slits in it. That was like my first kind of really basic set of gear. Then I moved to like a hospital gown, which is I actually just moved back to because I just, you know, COVID happened. I actually got pregnant during COVID and had a baby. So I really did luck out on the timing of it. But with that, my body changed a lot. So I can't wear the same gear that I did before COVID. I've been just trying different types of gear, but my last few sets they haven't really been my character. You know, I've been kind of shifting away from my character and just kind of being more watered down. So I'm trying to bring it back and really like add new levels to it. So I went back a couple weeks ago to my hospital gown. So I have my hospital gown and then I wear some hospital bracelets along with it. And I have my straight jacket that I walk out with too.
So slowly getting back into Ella too and all of that.
Yes.
I mean, how was it for you? I mean, giving birth, I don't know how long was the time period from when you give birth before you like started training again? Because I would think that that's like a huge step to be able to do.
Yeah. So once you have a baby, you go to, after 6 weeks, you go to like your doctor's appointment to basically to like start living your life again, you know, like to start exercising and everything. So it was actually the day of my 6-week appointment was on a Tuesday, and we train on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I went to training that night. I couldn't do much. I still had to be kind of careful. And my trainer definitely like limited me on what I could do. And that's good because I wanted to go in there full force. But I was definitely feeling it the next day.
I mean, wasting no time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like too, I mean, you starting a train 2018, making your debut in 2019, and then becoming a mom in the middle of a pandemic. Did you kind of maybe feel like it kind of like derailed any momentum that you had, especially, I mean, going into it because you're so used to getting the reps, and then the pandemic hits, and then you're also transitioning to becoming a mother. So how was that time period for you like?
Yeah, it's definitely like it was definitely an experience because I did start training 2018, and then 2019 I started taking a lot of bookings and I was traveling quite a bit too. And I felt like I was just starting to get to the point where like, okay, I might start getting it, you know, and like I felt like I was in a good routine and a good flow, and like I was starting to like have more confidence in myself. But then then I got pregnant and then the pandemic happened. But I really did luck out on the timing because like of course like my baby, his name's Nash. He's the best thing that ever happened to me. Yeah, like I love him so much, but like I feel like if COVID didn't happen during that, like I not that I was missing out on anything, but like because
I get
that
it.
like I at during the beginning of it, like I was watching wrestling all the time. I was like, oh, I can take all this time to study.
Mhm.
But then like at a certain point, I was like, I don't even want to watch it because it just makes me sad because I can't do it. Like I want to be in there. I want to be wrestling, like, and just watching it just makes me sad because I can't. But I did luck out on the timing because I really didn't miss much because everything was shut down. Really, nobody was wrestling at the time. And so then shortly after the shows started back up, like I went to a few, but then I was able to start training again.
Yeah, so I mean, I get it. Maybe it was also blessing in disguise. You have time. I mean, you weren't missing much like those first few months, especially because besides the mainstream stuff, like almost all the independent stuff was just like shut down. So
Right.
you kind of lucked out in that essence too. And I mean, getting back into shape, like how was that process for you? Like adapting to just giving birth and then getting back into ring shape while also juggling all your other responsibilities.
Oh my goodness, it's a slow process. I'm still not where I want anywhere close to where I want to be yet. But I'm getting there, like I um yeah, just I have to remind myself, just take time for both. It's about balance. Sometimes I'll feel guilty for going to training, but then sometimes I feel guilty for not going to training, and so I just got to figure out a balance, and I'll just find like stuff I can do at home, like home workouts, stuff like that. And then just adjusting my gear to more flattering styles, stuff that just kind of like what they said, hide your flaws and everything. So I just try to work with my body changes, and hopefully I'll get into the shape that I want to be in soon. So I a couple months ago I won the NWF Women's Revolution
Did.
Championship, and when I first won it, I couldn't even buckle the belt around my waist, but now I can. So we're making progress.
Good things take time too.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm very curious. I mean, you're a mother now, but when you were younger, like honestly, what were some of your childhood aspirations? Like, what did young Elizabeth want to be when she grew up?
Exactly what I am now, which is so crazy. I wanted to be a mom and I wanted to be a wrestler, and like I'm doing it, it's really neat to look back and see.
I mean, especially too, you shared a throwback photo too of young Ella/Elizabeth holding a cardboard WWE Women's Championship. So, how surreal is it for you now to look back on that photo and now you hold the gold with the NWF Women's Championship?
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's so crazy to look back and see that. Um yeah, I remember making that because they didn't my brothers had like the little toy belts,
Yeah.
the WWE belts, but they didn't have any of like the Divas or the women's championship at Walmart or Target, so like I just made it in cardboard. But yeah, it's really neat to look back now and see that. And I was actually at a show a couple weeks ago with Victoria, Lisa Marie Varon, and I see you've interviewed her a couple of times. She's so
Yes.
nice. But she was there and she like had out for intermission, she had her women's
Was
championship on.
this the show with Judy Hendricks?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, go on.
But yeah, I was like I was definitely marking out for a minute, as they say, but like I don't even care. It was just so cool to see that like in person and be like, oh my gosh, like I made a cardboard version of this.
Like full circle moments are again
Yeah.
no coincidences, and it's crazy some of the things that like we're able to achieve or like be a part of too. And I just think it's really cool when stuff like that happens in life too. And I mean, you're ever evolving too. I mean, I've seen you mention to your wrestling notebook before. So what exactly is in this notebook?
Yeah, so I actually have it right here. So basically I'm not anywhere done with it yet, but I just a couple months ago decided I should just start writing down notes and like everything that I've learned. So I kind of have this was my fiance's gear that I designed for him. I have that in there. And then I just have like this basic match format, notes that I've training, moves I've learned, more notes from seminars.
Very organized too, more so than any of my notes I ever took in life.
But yeah, and then I have states I've wrestled in, people I've wrestled, and then just like inspirational quotes that I felt applied to wrestling.
Can you tell me one of those inspirational quotes?
Ooh, yeah. So probably my favorite one. It's from I I love The Office, and
Okay.
so they have the Office Ladies podcast. It's Jenna Fisher and Angela, and they talk about it. But I can't remember who said it. I feel like it was BJ Novak, but it was one of their producers. I think I can't remember who. I need to go back and figure out who they said. But I felt it really applied to wrestling. So they said find a way to evolve 5% they said show, but I feel every match, because anything less you become stale, and anything more people may have a hard time following. And so like that just really stuck with me, because you always want to be evolving.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, and I feel like everything too is repetition too, and getting those practice and gains. And so you have time to steadily improve over time. And I feel like if it was anything more than 5%, I feel like you might be like pushing it too. Like,
Yeah.
or especially in wrestling too, you don't want to divert from something that's too different too. And so sometimes gradual change and gradual evolvement, I feel like really pays off.
Yes, definitely.
I like that quote a lot. I feel like it applies to like life too as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. I didn't even know that you kind of designed your gear. I mean, have you designed anyone else's gear before?
Um, so like just like pretty much my fiance. So I have a history like in art. Like I used to draw caricatures at Kings Island.
Okay.
And do face paint and everything there. So like I've always been into art and into drawing, but he needed like some gear design, so I did that. Most of my gear that I've ordered, though, I haven't actually ordered like an actual customized set of gear yet. Most of my stuff has just been stuff that I've kind of pieced together, or ordered like from websites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that extremely fascinating too. And I feel like ring gear is like a very underappreciated part because it's very essential to your whole aesthetic and looks. I mean, who for you, from your perspective, maybe has like an outstanding ring gear game or aesthetic that you really enjoy in pro wrestling today?
Ooh. Right now, I definitely think Becky Lynch has like every.
Oh my God, yeah.
And like I've found the people who make her gear and I follow them on Instagram. But yeah, she has really good gear. I really like Mickey James' gear a lot too. And then of course Sue Young, like then her stuff is like so into her character, and that's what I love about it, you know.
I find that extremely fascinating because you have Becky Lynch, who's like very out there and bold. You have Mickey James, who's like hardcore country. Sue Young is very, I feel like when she's had her phases as Sue Young, kind of as this undead character creature, I feel like I can definitely see that inspiration intertwined in there, and I just find that extremely fascinating. If you could find a way to like intertwine them all, I think would be so cool. Maybe we could see a little bit of a country twang from Ella in the future. I don't know. Or a country scream. I don't know what that would sound like, but I just think that would be so cool. But I mean, another staple like of your look that I really noticed was your lipstick. I mean, it's very like dark maroon vibes. You switch it up every so often, but what are your go-to products to achieve this like lip look in your character?
I think it's just one that I get from Target. I think it might be Maybelline or something.
Okay.
Just one of the basic lipsticks that I just will put on. Sometimes I'll smear it depending on how I'm feeling. But yeah,
because I think it's like a staple of your look. I mean, could be construed as blood too. I mean, I feel like it works too. Now, have you utilized like blood or actual blood in a match before, and if so, how?
Not in a match. I used to do the fake like wounds at Island, so I've used fake blood before, but never in wrestling.
Okay. I was just very curious too, because I feel like your character is so, I mean, you have the hospital gown too, and I feel like it would be right up the alley. I mean, as you look towards the future too, I mean, what are some of your, I mean, you're a mother, you're a pro wrestler, I mean, you have everything organized. What are some of your personal or professional goals, maybe that are in some of your wrestling notebook?
I mean, I think with most like independent wrestlers, I would love to make a living out of it, you know. Of course. That was my goal when I started, and if life would still allow me to do that, like I would love that, absolutely. Because when I think about, even when I'm at work, if they talk about your career, I don't think about a desk job as my career. I think about wrestling. So I would love to do that, do it enough to make a full-time job out of it.
I understand that too. That's something I'm trying to do in the wrestling media world right now. But, finances in this economy
Yeah,
are crazy things too.
right.
And to close things out, we are all about hashtag girl power here on A Wrestling Gal. So, is there any female in your personal or professional life that kind of inspires or empowers you, you think?
Ooh. Um, Probably my grandma. Yes, I really look up to my grandma a lot, and just her work ethic and her way of life. She doesn't let things bother her. She just kind of does her thing. If you don't like it, oh well. Um, yeah. And then even the girls that I wrestle with right now at my home promotion at NWF, there's just our women's division. We have 9 girls right now. So that's so cool to just like all that we all live so close and we all love wrestling.
No, I think I know a few of the names on that roster, but can you give the people a little rundown if they're not tuning in to NWF, some of this women's roster?
Yes. So there's Big Mama, Nikki Victory, Selena Dean, Ella, Anika, Riley Matthews, Breezy, Savannah Sweet, and Jack Stinger.
A lot of talented people who I think are very up and coming. And I feel like a really underrated division, like the Midwest. I mean, would you classify yourself as Midwest or like kind of East Coasty too? Somewhere, you know what I mean. In
Yeah.
that hub though, I feel like is a really underrated like wrestling scene because there's a lot. I mean, access to like Chicago, the Northeast, you got Tennessee, you got a little bit of the southern region in there. I feel like it's a good central hub for a lot of wrestling.
Yeah, definitely.
And before I let you go, can you please tell the listeners where they can find you on all your social medias?
Sure. So my Facebook is Ella Elizabeth, and then my Instagram and Twitter are both Scream Queen Ella.
Which I love, by the way. I love to hear it. I won't make you scream on a podcast, but thank you so much for joining me today, Ella. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you for having me.